This is Paul. He wants to buy a shirt. He knows exactly what he's looking for. This one looks good and is even discounted. Okay, the website address is a bit weird, perlinswealth.de. It seems to be some kind of offshoot, but the price is unbeatable. Payment is by credit card only? Okay, Paul's fine with that. A bit strange, they charged him an extra €5. Oh well, still a bargain for a Lacoste shirt, so it should be fine. 2 weeks later, this is Julie. She runs a small glass-making workshop by Lake Constance, specializing in beads. An unknown number calls, the 10th time this month.
Hello, I wanted to ask when my Lacoste shirt will finally arrive.
Your Lacoste shirt?
Yes, I ordered it from you 2 weeks ago, and it still hasn't arrived.
Can you tell me the website where you ordered it?
Hold on. perlinswealth.de.
That was the website address for years, with photos of her beads and details of her medieval market visits. Julie Googles the name of her site. The first result is this website. This fake shop offers no real deals. It's a scam. Criminals are trying to steal people's money through online shopping fraud. For this story, we traveled to Berlin, to the office of the investigative journalist from Die Zeit. We're here to talk about fake shops, and in this case, it all started with Ronald. I'm Ronald from Hamburg. My job title is IT security consultant, and both at work and in my free time, I like to look into other people's computers. Ronald is a cybersecurity expert. One day he stumbles upon some data, a backup of an online shop's configuration data. Not very interesting at first, but then he finds another one, and then more. They all look very similar, and only then did my interest get piqued. Hundreds, even thousands of data leaks were very similar, found on various domains on the internet. He then starts digging deeper and discovers online shops. But they don't seem to be real shops, though he still doesn't understand why anyone would do this. Why there would be thousands of fake shops. So he brings in backup. We were sitting at a table, chatting about life, when Ronald opened his computer and said, "Look at this. Are you interested?" He showed me an online shop, a very basic Uniqlo store. He thinks he's found a few thousand of them and suspects they might all belong to one gang. What interested me was that just before, my daughters had tried to buy Doc Martens online and were thrilled with the low price, so each ordered a pair for €40, which is pretty cheap for Doc Martens. They paid €80 total, but no shoes ever arrived. So fake shops were already a topic in our family, and I knew that fake shops were a big problem on the internet. I was immediately interested. Ronald and Kai decided to dig deeper. To understand what's happening with this network, we placed a test order. We didn't use a real credit card because we feared the data would be stolen, so we used a so-called canary credit card, like a canary in a coal mine. If it's used, it sends a warning that someone is trying to use the card, but no money can be taken. At first, nothing happened, just an order confirmation, no charge, no delivery. But a month later, there was a warning. Someone tried to withdraw money multiple times. That's when it clicked, and we understood how they make their money. This suddenly made the topic much more interesting. Ronald digs even deeper, gradually revealing a huge interconnected network. He discovers that all these thousands of online shops use the same software, which at first doesn't mean much. They identify thousands of domains running on hundreds of servers, all seemingly linked in one network. Hundreds of servers are not managed individually. There are systems in the background that handle this, and there is a central system linking everything together. This is all connected to one actor. When your team sees this, what goes through your mind? Wow. Ronald discovers even more, uncovering employee lists, job postings, checklists, and billing documents, all in Chinese. The documents refer to a company in Fuzhou, China, listed in the Chinese Business Registry, suggesting they've been running online scams on an industrial scale under the guise of a small business for years. And now, all their trade secrets are in Ronald's hands. We named this operation Bogus Bazaar. How does this gang operate? On the gang server, we found manuals that explain exactly how these shops are set up and what they do. With Kai's help, we could trace exactly how this fake shop business works. First, build a website. Here you see, it's a WordPress site. This is what WordPress looks like behind the scenes. Using these documents, anyone can easily create their fake shop. It explains in Chinese with images what to click and where to enter things. The group primarily uses WordPress, which allows them to quickly create websites and the necessary infrastructure. They copy content from real stores, scraping images and brand logos automatically, not manually, but on an industrial scale. They repeatedly target brands like Nike, Adidas, Crocs, Lacoste, and others to keep their content up to date. They build their own pages using these images. The website text is automatically translated with phrases that don't quite make sense in German, like hot sales. But the most important thing is the discounts. Prices are set 20, 30, or 40% lower than on the official sites, enough to make people eager for a good deal, but not so absurdly cheap that it looks suspicious. I spoke with many people, and they often explained, "I thought it was a clearance of last year's stock." Second, the domain. Setting up a fake shop requires an address that's easy to find on Google. Registering a new domain for Lacoste, for example, is challenging because brands have many global websites. Search engines like Google get suspicious when a new Lacoste shop appears and don't rank it highly. The solution: dormant but unobtrusive domains that still rank on Google. They monitor release domains, check if they have enough search images, and then re-register them under their names. To avoid suspicion, they place the URL name under the logo to make it look like some sort of reseller. Third, the payment system. The weak point in any fake shop is the payment process. This is where customers are most skeptical and where banks and PayPal may intervene. The solution: the group created a two-step system, disconnecting the shop from the payment. First, you enter your credit card details on the site, but get an error message. Then, you're redirected to a separate site for payment, such as via PayPal. This system allows them to keep the business running. The group uses the card data themselves or sells it to other players who trade stolen credit card information on a large scale. Through this model, Bogus Bazaar has set up 76,000 fake shops and scammed over 850,000 people. In the last 3 years, they've taken in over 50 million euros, primarily scamming customers in France, the USA, and Germany. Despite so many victims, this issue is often seen as minor by police due to the relatively low individual loss amounts. However, if you've been affected, you should report it to the police. The more people report these cases, the more likely the authorities will respond. Fake shops remain lucrative and challenging to combat effectively, suggesting this problem will be with us for a long time.
Fast fashion is cheap, trendy, and arrives at your doorstep faster than you can say, "Do I really need another pair of ripped jeans?" Brands like Zara, H&M, and Shine have built empires on disposable clothing, feeding our addiction to new trends. But beneath the surface lies a story of exploitation, environmental destruction, and marketing illusions. Act 1. The glittering facade. Fast fashion thrives on constant newness. A $5 shirt feels like a steal, but someone else is paying the price. These brands copy runway designs at record speed, selling them at rock-bottom prices. Millions scroll through apps daily, hunting for the latest trends, fueling an industry built on mass consumption. Act 2. The human cost. Factories in developing countries produce these clothes under brutal conditions. Workers, many of them women and children, endure 12-hour shifts for wages that barely cover basic needs. The 2013 Rana Plaza collapse in Bangladesh killed over 1,100 garment workers. Yet years later, little has changed. Brands promise ethics and sustainability, but behind the PR, exploitation continues. Act 3. The environmental nightmare. Fast fashion's carbon footprint surpasses aviation and shipping combined. The industry generates 92 million tons of textile waste annually, most of it ending up in landfills. Synthetic fabrics take centuries to decompose, shedding microplastics into oceans. One pair of jeans requires 7,500 liters of water, enough to sustain one person for 7 years. Act 4. The marketing illusion. Fast fashion brands push micro-seasons, dropping new collections weekly to keep shoppers hooked. They slap on buzzwords like eco-friendly and sustainable, but most claims are greenwashing. Some even label clothes organic cotton when they contain none at all. Act 5. The Consumer Trap. We're not just victims, we're accomplices. How many impulse buys sit in our closets with tags still attached? The cycle is designed to keep us buying, justifying cheap purchases while ignoring the hidden costs. Fast fashion reflects both creativity and excess, ingenuity and ethical failure. Change starts with small choices. Next time you're tempted by a $3 top, ask, is it worth it? The true cost isn't on the price tag, it's in the lives it affects and the planet it harms. What if I told you that one of the most hyped clothing brands in the world started in a tiny New York City shop, and its founder was just 19 years old? Oh, and there's a darker side to its success that most people don't talk about. This is the untold story of Supreme, a brand that went from a small skate shop to a billion-dollar empire, but not without its controversies. Back in 1994, a 19-year-old boy, James Jebbia, opened the first Supreme store in downtown Manhattan. But here's the thing, James wasn't a fashion designer. He didn't even have a background in clothing. Who was he? Just a kid with a vision to blend skateboarding, hip-hop, and street culture into something fresh and new. And guess what? It worked. Supreme wasn't just a store, it was a hangout spot for skaters, artists, and rebels. James wanted it to feel like a clubhouse, a place where people could connect over their love for counterculture. And that's exactly what made it special. The brand didn't just sell clothes, it sold an attitude, a lifestyle, and people ate it up. Fast forward to today, and Supreme is a global phenomenon. From their iconic box logo hoodies to wild collaborations with brands like Louis Vuitton, Nike, and even, wait for it, v-rio, Supreme has become the ultimate symbol of streetwear. But with great success comes, well, some pretty dark secrets. Supreme's success isn't just about cool designs, it's about scarcity. They intentionally produce limited quantities, creating insane demand. This has led to crazy resale markets, where people camp out for days just to flip a $50 t-shirt for hundreds or even thousands of dollars. And it doesn't stop there. Supreme has been accused of cultural appropriation, copying designs, and even exploiting their own hype. Remember when they released a brick, yes, an actual brick, with their logo on it? It sold out instantly and resold for hundreds of dollars. Some people called it genius marketing, others called it a scam. Then there's the criticism that Supreme has sold out. What started as an underground brand for skaters and artists is now a luxury status symbol. Some say they've lost touch with their roots, while others argue that's just the price of success. But love it or hate it, Supreme's influence is undeniable. So what about James Jebbia, the 19-year-old who started it all? He stayed surprisingly low-key, letting the brand speak for itself. While other founders are out there flexing on social media, James prefers to stay behind the scenes. But his story is a reminder that you don't need a fancy degree or $1 million budget to make an impact. Sometimes all you need is a bold idea and the guts to go for it. You're scrolling through Shein's endless catalog, a universe of trendy clothes at prices too good to be true. But every swipe, every add to cart hides a story. It's not the story of style or savings, it's the story of destruction. Shein isn't just a brand, it's a machine. A machine that produces tens of thousands of new designs every day. A machine that feeds on our desire for instant gratification. And like any machine, it leaves waste in its wake. An environmental catastrophe disguised as a wardrobe upgrade. To understand Shein's impact, let's trace the journey of one $5 shirt. It begins in factories, where synthetic fabrics like polyester are churned out at breakneck speed. Polyester, cheap, durable, and derived from fossil fuels, is the lifeblood of fast fashion. But producing it comes at a cost: energy-intensive processes and massive carbon emissions. In villages near Shein's production hubs, rivers run red and blue from untreated dyes. children fall ill from chemicals seeping into their water supplies. For them, fashion isn't a trend, it's a toxic legacy. Once the shirt is made, it joins millions of others on Shein's website. Algorithms track trends and consumer behavior, ensuring the designs hit the market faster than ever before. The result? Clothes are purchased faster than they can be worn, creating a culture of disposability. But what happens to these clothes when the trend fades or the fabric tears? They don't disappear. They're tossed into overflowing landfills or shipped off to developing countries. In Ghana, mountains of discarded fast fashion items clog landfills and spill into neighborhoods. Residents call them dead white man's clothes. And it's not just the visible waste that's a problem. Every time you wash that $5 shirt, tiny plastic fibers shed into the water. These microplastics flow into rivers and oceans, eventually entering the food chain. Scientists have found microplastics in fish, in drinking water, even in human bloodstreams. As Shein's empire grows, so does its environmental footprint. The company has made gestures toward sustainability, recycling programs, reduced packaging, but critics argue these efforts are merely cosmetic. One sustainability expert said, "You can't greenwash away a business model that's fundamentally about overproduction and overconsumption. Shein's scale makes it impossible to be truly sustainable." So what can we do? Boycotting Shein is a start, but the problem goes deeper than one company. It's about breaking free from the cycle of fast fashion itself. It's about valuing quality over quantity, choosing pieces that last, and supporting brands that prioritize ethics over profit. For Shein, the path forward isn't clear. The company's success is built on speed and volume, but the cracks are starting to show. Consumers are demanding transparency. Activists are pushing for regulations. And the planet? It's running out of time.